trailer. We're talking about the Game of Thrones Season 8 trailer that just came out, and we're going to try and figure out what's going on, what does it mean. I want to hear questions from you guys. I want to hear what you guys want talked about in the video, because we're going to do a proper, like, full-on explained video to go through all the details, all the everything, in a minute. But first, I want to hear what you guys want to talk about, and I want to give some initial impressions. Thank you all for getting in the chat and the stream. So let's just first go through, like, what's going on in this trailer. Let's just quickly identify what's happening before we go a little deeper into what might be going on. Poggers indeed. So first we got Arya, and she's in the dark, she's looking afraid, and we don't know where she is. The imagery sort of evokes, like, the long night, I think, like, because we're in the darkness, the White Walkers are coming. That's the context of the trailer. Man, this chat is actually useless with how many people are here, but welcome all. So we got Arya looking afraid and scared. Maybe she's fighting White Walkers, or maybe she's trying to assassinate Cersei, like she said she would last season, or maybe she's trying to kill the Mountain or someone. We don't know what's going on. Yeah, I think it's a decent guess that she's in Winterfell. It looks like most of the footage from this trailer is set in, like, the first few episodes. There's a lot of talk of a big battle at Winterfell in Season 8, Episode 3, so maybe that's the context of what we're seeing here. Some people saying the stream is down. Alright, well, whatever. Thank you for the super chat from Jonathan Weiss. Cheers, mate. Here's what's scary. Arya is running away from something in the dark here. What's she running away from? We don't know. But have a look at this. Look at her face. She's got a big red mark on her face. What's happening to Arya? Is she injured? Is this an injury sustained in the battle at Winterfell, or is this an injury sustained from something else? That's a big red mark. That looks bad, like a wound on her forehead that's bleeding down over her face. It looks a little bit like the for the book readers. You know how Bloodraven in the books has a wine-stained birthmark in the shape of a crow of a raven on her face. Someone in the chat reckons that Arya is running from the Faceless Men. Maybe the Faceless Men have come for Arya because she left them and broke her rules and stuff. Who knows? Someone reckons it's a Hickey from the Night King. Possible. Thank you for the super chat, Ak-Am. Hi yourself. So Arya's running. Oh, and she's got a weapon. Is that the cat's paw blade there? Or is that a dragonglass dagger? We see her with a dragonglass dagger in a different scene. I reckon it's probably the cat's paw blade, the Valyrian steel. Yeah, that's the Valyrian steel blade for sure. Thanks, Claudio, for the donation. Then we got Davos on what looks like the battlements of Winterfell, probably in this big war against the White Walkers that attacked. This looks like preparation, the quiet before the storm. Then we get Arya running through here again. Maybe she's not, like, fleeing an enemy. Maybe she's running to tell someone something. Like, maybe she's telling Jon, yo, Jon, there's fucking White Walkers up in your shit. That's possible. But she's running through the corridors. It actually reminds me a bit of a nightmare. Thanks for the donation, Anas. It reminds me a bit of Jon Snow's nightmares of the crypts in the books, where Jon is very upset and walking through these dark corridors, but it also reminds me of the desperation of the story of the last hero who fought the White Walkers in legend in the North. It also reminds me, importantly, of there's the line in Book 1 where Jon Snow says that Arya, you're going to die. They're going to find you in the spring with your frozen fingers still locked tight around Needle. Which suggests some really dark, sad, tragic end for Arya. Maybe Arya will die in Game of Thrones Season 8 at the hands of the White Walkers. That would be fucking upsetting. Then we got Varys in the crypts of Winterfell. You can see one of the crypt statues here, and a bunch of common people. So it looks like the people of the North and Winterfell are taking refuge in the Winterfell crypts during the battle that happens with presumably the attack of the White Walkers. So maybe that's what's going on. I also think it's kind of funny that, you know, Varys is the only man down here cowering from the battle. I suppose he's not exactly a warrior. But, well, actually, it's also interesting that there are women down here, because we learned last season that Jon Snow plans to send the women to fight this battle as well as the boys and men. Jon wants like every able-bodied hand in the battle. So it's interesting that there are even people down here. I guess these are people just too young and too weak, and I guess Varys is among them. This also reminds me of, during the Battle of Blackwater in Season 2, Episode 9, when Cersei and the women of the Red Keep are hiding down in Maegor's Holdfast, and you get those wonderful conversations between Cersei and Sansa in Season 2. I wonder what conversations are going to happen down here with Varys and the rest. Thanks very much, everyone, for the chats from Playful Mushroom, Roxandra, much appreciated. Eric, thanks very much. Mr. Mayhem in the chat says, what if Arya is running from resurrected dead Starks? Maybe she's running away from Zombie Jon. That would be messed up. Or Zombie Lyanna Mormont. That would be horrifying. And yeah, you got Arya. So it's a really strong thread throughout this trailer. We keep getting these shots of Arya running away. Look, what could Arya possibly be running away from? Like, Arya is so strong now and so tough. She is a ninja assassin with Valyrian steel. What could she possibly be afraid of? Here's my theory. I reckon she's not actually running away from an enemy. She's actually running to tell someone something, or to do something, or maybe to defend someone else. Maybe that's what's happening. David Film Blues, thanks for the chat, says, do you think trailer is first 3 episodes, and do you think there will be any major flashback scenes? Huge fan of your work. I would guess that, yeah, the trailer is the first few episodes, if that. I mean, we've been told by Entertainment Weekly that the big battle at Winterfell will be episode 3, I believe, and this certainly seems to be scenes from that battle. I would guess the first 3 episodes. And the first 3 episodes is like the first half of the season, right? So they're not going to give away much more than that in the trailer. Do you think there will be any major flashback scenes? There are some really interesting historical events that they could cover. Like, we haven't seen the Grand Tournament at Harrenhal, which was where Jon's parents, Rhaegar and Lyanna, met. That would be really cool. We could certainly get more flashbacks of like the Dawn Age and the Age of the White Walkers being created and the origin of the Night King. We could certainly see more of that. So I think, yeah, we could definitely see more flashback scenes. Certainly through Bran, he could see more things in the past, I think is very likely. I should have put the thing on the screen so y'all can see the super chat things. Can I quickly? No, it'll be too much of a hassle. Okay, so Varys is down in the crypts. We see Arya running away more. Alright, so I'm going to get Arya, and Arya says, I know death. He's got many faces. I look forward to seeing this one. That's what Arya says here. And she could be referring to the Night King. I think we could certainly see the Night King, the leader of the White Walkers, as an embodiment of death. I think D&D have said so. The Game of Thrones showrunners have called Night King an embodiment of death before. So maybe Arya sees the Night King as an embodiment of, the god of the Faceless Men. I mean, isn't that crazy? Arya was training with the Faceless Men, a cult who worship death, and now Arya is fighting against the Night King, who embodies death. In a lot of ways, Arya is fighting against the god that she was supposed to be worshipping. So Arya perhaps has strayed far indeed from where the Faceless Men wanted her to be. April 14. All right, so then we got some Greyjoy ships, Euron Greyjoy's Iron Fleet, I would say. And then we get this wonderful shot of the Golden Company. So last season, Cersei Lannister sent Euron Greyjoy to Essos to hire a mercenary company called the Golden Company, an army to help Cersei try and hold the Iron Throne. And the Golden Company in the books has a whole lot of fascinating, complicated backstory. For y'all who are familiar with House Blackfire, they're involved in that old 100-year-old House Targaryen history, none of which will be relevant to the show, probably, because there are whole characters and storylines that are cut out of the show. But the Golden Company might just play the role of like a generic army just to sort of prop up Cersei. Except that might indicate that maybe Cersei takes the role of the character Young Griff. So in the books, there's this character called Young Griff, who is supposedly the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, when Jon is actually the son of Rhaegar Targaryen. And Young Griff invades Westeros with the Golden Company. And it looks like in the books, Cersei will go down and Young Griff will take the throne, and then Daenerys and Jon will have to deal with Young Griff. That's sort of what it looks like is happening in the books. Maybe in the show, Cersei is playing the role of Young Griff, and that's why she has the Golden Company. Maybe that's what's going on. I also just love the look of these soldiers. Is anyone getting like a Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, elven armor sort of vibe from this? In Helm's Deep when the elves from Lothlorien march in and help the men of Rohan. I'm getting some of those vibes, and this like horizontal slats across the armor that looks a lot like the Fellowship of the Ring elves, I reckon. So I'm getting some Lord of the Rings vibes. I mean, I think this whole show is going to get Lord of the Rings vibes because it's very much like an epic fantasy at this point. Good versus evil, massive battles. So I reckon we're going to be feeling a bit hobbity here and there. And yeah, this bloke in particular is presumably Harry Strickland, who's the leader of the Golden Company, and there has been casting news that there is a Harry Strickland, so that's exciting. Gurav Sen, thanks for the super chat, says, love your videos. Do you think Jon will make it in the end? Jon... well, in the video we just put out, we suggest that maybe Jon will become the new Night's King, because Jon's arc is all about sacrifice, and there is all sorts of stuff in the books hinting at some spooky connection between the White Walkers and the Starks, something in their blood that connects them. And there's all this stuff about like Gilly and her baby, and the idea of a baby being stolen away from the White Walkers that they want back. So watch the video for the full thing. But I reckon there's a good chance Jon will make some kind of mystical, tragic sacrifice where he will either die or become something not human, and probably go off beyond the wall to be a nice person and restore the balance to the Force. I reckon that's probably what Jon will do. Alternatively, maybe Jon will kill Daenerys, which would reflect the ancient story of Azor Ahai and Nissa. But maybe that story could be subverted and Daenerys will sacrifice Jon. But that's probably rambling. But yeah, cheers. And thanks for the chat, Mario. So that looks like the Golden Company with Euron. I'm curious to know whether at this point Theon has met with Euron. Because in Season 7, Theon decided to go and find Euron and rescue Yara, which is, Theon's sister who was captured by Euron. Neebs in the chat says that there's someone running behind Arya at 17 seconds. Is that true? Let's have a look. Is that who you're talking about? That figure there? Neebs in the chat. Oh, yeah. No, I reckon you're onto something. Hey, alright, people in the chat, who's this? There is a figure, a moving shadow, running behind Arya at 17 seconds. Yeah, that's definitely someone chasing Arya. Holy shit. Well, that's interesting. That's fucking... Thanks, Neebs. That is interesting because that's not the Mountain. I think we can safely say that. The Mountain is one of the people who Arya might be fighting, but that is way too small to be the Mountain. Could it be a Faceless Man person? I doubt that the Faceless Men are going to come back. A lot of people reckon that Littlefinger is working with the Faceless Men, but no, I think there's 6 episodes left. I don't think they're going to be bringing back a whole bunch of characters unexpectedly. The most obvious possibility is a White. Like, that could be one of many Whites chasing Arya. It could be a little bit like that scene under Bloodraven's cave where Bran and Mira and Leaf were being chased by Whites. So yeah, that's a good catch. I don't know. We'll have to work that out. Thank you to Catherine for the super chat, who has also started reading The Expanse. Good on you. Expanse is good. All right, so what else? So Golden Company. All right, then we got like the coolest new trio, the 3 fucking Musketeers. I love this. So this is none other than Dolorous Ed, the honorary commander of the Night's Watch, even though there isn't really a Night's Watch anymore. Or maybe we're all Night's Watch now. Anyway, and then we got Tormund, the like last named wildling, unless that guy Dim Dalber is still around. There is a bloke called Dim Dalber who had a minor role in season 6. I don't know if he's still around, but if he's not, Tormund is the last named wildling, which is why I think that Tormund will probably survive. Like, Tormund, you'd think, is a relatively like expendable character, but Tormund represents the wildlings, and if we don't have Tormund, who's going to represent the fate of that entire people, that entire culture, all of those cultures? And Beric Dondarrion with his flaming sword. And Beric Dondarrion is so enigmatic in this show because he's so obviously like a magical destiny prophecy heroic dude, right? Azor Ahai, the hero of prophecy who's meant to rescue Westeros from the White Walkers, is said to carry a burning sword called Lightbringer, which, you know, you'd think would suggest that Big Man B, Beric, is that hero. But, I mean, is the fate of the world really going to rest in the hands of a minor character who we're not all that attached with compared to the other characters? I doubt it. So Beric talked last season about, like, oh, I must have some special destiny. The Lord of Light has something in mind for me, but I don't know what it is. So Beric surely will play some role in the end. Maybe he'll make some sacrifice. Maybe he'll, like, enable Jon to kill the Night King or something like that. That could make sense. Maybe he'll be the fire that goes into Lightbringer, who knows. Alright, what's this? This is Samwise Gamgee, the main man, and we got Bran here, who he's talking to. Last time we saw Bran and Sam, they worked out the truth, that Jon Snow is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. And they're talking about, like, all right, we got to tell Jon that he's banging his aunt. Like, that's a bit of an issue. He needs to know that he's the heir to the throne. Someone in the chat reckons that's actually Lomi. I doubt it. But the most obvious thing that Sam and Bran are going to do is tell Jon his parentage. And it makes sense that Sam would be the one to tell him that because, you know, Jon has said that Sam is is the person he trusts most. And, you know, Bran is, of course, Jon's... Well, he thinks it's his brother, but he's actually his cousin. But Bran is a little bit of a robot at the moment, so it's probably more likely that Sam will tell Jon. And that'll be one of the big flashpoints of drama in this new season, right? Because, you know, Tyrion at the end of season 7, you know, staring at Daenerys and Jon's boat sex, was, I think, an indication that the romance between Jon and Daenerys will end badly. Thanks for the super chat, Nikhil. Because, of course, you know, Daenerys desperately wants the throne of Westeros, but Jon now has a better claim because he's the eldest son of he's the son of Rhaegar Targaryen. So it seems that's going to be a problem for Daenerys because if Jon is ahead of Daenerys, that causes a problem for her. Her whole identity is built on winning the throne. So that'll complicate things. We got the Red Keep. Nothing much interesting here. Red Keep held by Cersei Lannister. And we got Cersei in her incredibly badass new armor. She's got a golden pads, her chains. Chains are interesting. Chains imply that you're held back in some way. And her Hand of the King is Qyburn, the mad scientist, and she's also got the mountain Gregor Clegane here. So Cersei's last two friends are like the least reliable, trustworthy people in Westeros, but that's all she's got. She's looking pretty pleased here. I would guess that this is Cersei looking at the Greyjoy fleet, bringing in the Golden Company right now. It reminds me of early in season 7 when Cersei was standing outside the Red Keep watching the Greyjoys come in. So this looks pretty similar. We got some unknown person watching the Unsullied march into Winterfell, which is pretty crazy, like, just on the face of it. Like, the Unsullied are slave soldiers bred in Astapor in far distant Slavers Bay. Like, this is a very distant culture to Winterfell, and yet here they are marching in to the far north. This is a real culture clash, and that's one of the things that was talked about earlier in the story, especially with the Dothraki. We also see some Dothraki outside Winterfell. And what's going to happen when these far distant cultures merge with the northern culture? Is the show going to have time to talk about that? I don't know. And then we have Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, the most powerful, incestuous power couple in Westeros, marching in with their army, which represents like a crazy powerful, a crazy amount of power, which they're going to need in order to hold out against the army of the dead. You got dragons flying over Winterfell. You know the last time dragons flew over Winterfell? In the recent Fire and Blood history book that just came out, we learned about what happened when King Jaehaerys and Queen Alysanne came to Winterfell with their dragons. And there was this really interesting anecdote in the book about how Queen Alysanne tried to fly her dragon over the wall, but the dragon got like scared and disobedient, and the dragon refused to fly beyond the wall, which suggests that maybe the dragon was like scared of the White Walkers beyond, or that the dragon like couldn't cross the magic of the wall. And you know, Winterfell itself is also suggested to possibly have some kind of ancient magic to it. So I wonder if the dragons will react to somehow to the magic of Winterfell. There are also rumors of there being dragon eggs in Winterfell in the books. Which is probably not literally true. It seems likely that those dragon eggs are more metaphorical dragon eggs that might manifest when Jon learns his Targaryen identity in the Winterfell crypts. Thanks for the donation, Easterhill B. Then we got Daenerys Targaryen in the Winterfell crypts, which again is just crazy. Daenerys is a Targaryen, an embodiment of fire, and yet the Winterfell crypts are a sacred place to House Stark. This is an ancient place, some 8,000 years old, according to legend. And here Daenerys walks in. There was a time in the books when Rickon Stark brought a couple of Freys down into the crypts, and Bran got really angry. He was saying that, you know, this is a Stark place. This is only a place for Starks to enter. So it seems almost somehow wrong for Daenerys to come down to this place. It's also interesting that Jon is down in the crypts. Presumably, is he standing in front of a statue? Is that a statue there that Jon is? No. Yeah, well, the important thing is that down here, Jon, there is a statue of Lyanna Stark, who is Jon Snow's mother, who he thought was his aunt. So I wonder if this is the moment of Jon Snow just having found out that, whoa, I'm a Targaryen, and also, whoa, the woman I've fallen in love with and boat sexed is my aunt. So Daenerys and Jon here might be squaring up to have like the most awkward aunt-nephew conversation imaginable. That's entirely possible. Because there have been so many important conversations that have happened down here. We saw it in Season 1, Episode 1, with Ned and Robert talking about Lyanna, and Eddard, like, trying to hide the secret of Jon's birth. And we had Littlefinger and Sansa down here with that feather. Lots of important stuff happen. Lots of important things happen in the trailer. So Jon and Daenerys here certainly look concerned. Are these the faces who've just found out that they're related? What's that show? Maury something or other? What's that American reality TV show where they say, you are the father or you are not the father? That's basically what's happening right now, possibly. It might be that these guys have just found out that they're banging their relatives. All right, so then we got a forge in Winterfell, and we got Gendry. So Gendry's apparently working as a smith at Winterfell. Yeah, Maury Povich, that's the one. Bravery says stop calling him Jon, because yeah, Jon's real name is apparently Aegon Targaryen. So should we start calling Jon Aegon Targaryen? There is an argument for that, but I suspect that like what's going to happen with Jon's revelation when Jon finds out he's a Targaryen, he's not going to suddenly start wearing red and riding dragons and doing all of that shit. I think that Jon will recognize that, hey, you know, Ned Stark is my father. I was raised at Winterfell. Like whatever's in my blood, I believe in the values and the heritage of that family, and that's who Jon identifies with. So I don't think any amount of Targaryen stuff will change that. Jon embodies these values of like justice and responsibility and self-sacrifice, which is all from Ned Stark, right? So I don't think Jon does have a lot in common with his father Rhaegar as well, but Jon identifies as a Targaryen, and I think he'll stay that way, and as a Stark, and for that reason, I'm going to keep calling Jon. And besides, there's like 14 people called Aegon at this point, so let's not do that. So Gendry, unfortunately, Gendry's wearing a shirt this time. Last time we saw Gendry in a smith, that was not a problem. But Gendry's working as a smith here, and last season Gendry made friends with Jon because he was like, oh, you know, my father, Robert Baratheon, because Gendry is the bastard son of Robert Baratheon, he was like, oh, my father Robert was friends with your father Eddard. They fought together against the Targaryens back in the day, and so therefore we should be friends. And that's all cool and well, except the thing is, what Jon's about to find out is that Jon's father isn't Eddard. Jon's father is actually Rhaegar, and Rhaegar was killed by Robert back in the day. So Gendry's father killed Jon's father, which hardly seems like a reason for them to get along now, right? So that's just one of the many, many ways that all of Jon's relationships are going to be like put into question by the revelation of Jon's parentage. Jon will have to question all of his family relationships, finding out that his siblings are actually his cousins, and finding out that his lover Daenerys is actually his aunt, and finding out that Gendry is the son of his enemy. You know, there's all this crazy history that Jon is going to have to process. But unfortunately, he's not going to have a lot of time to do so because the White Walkers are marching on Winterfell. Indeed, Rhaegar might be Jon's father, but Eddard is his daddy. Ted Knight says, none of this matters. They are all going to get iced. They're all going to die. I doubt it. One Step Plus One, thanks for the chat, asks, what is your favorite crazy theory? The best crazy theory is, of course, D plus D equals T. And that's an old theory on the subreddits that Tyrion is actually Daenerys's son. It's got this whole thing about a time-traveling fetus. It's quite complex. You should all look it up. D plus D equals T. Then we got Jorah with Dothraki outside Winterfell, which is just so crazy. This is important for Jorah personally because Jorah is a Northman, right? Jorah is a Mormont. He's of Bear Isle. So he's the family of, little Lyanna Mormont and Jeor Mormont, the Lord Commander who Jon was with back in the day. So Jorah is now finally returning. Throughout his season, Jorah says that his dream is to return home. Just like Daenerys is going through this journey of wanting to come back to Westeros, Jorah has wanted to come back to Westeros. And now he's finally doing it. So this is enormously important for Jorah personally, to return to the north. And maybe in the end, Jorah will get to stay in his Actually, that is a really good comment. Someone says that the time-traveling fetus trope is way overplayed. Yeah, that is true, Search Local. I think that it's just too obvious for Tyrion to be the time-traveling fetus of Daenerys. Okay, Not Alfie does a super chat and says, the photos released for Season 8 shows the Night King's eyes. He has star eyes and 7 dots representing the light of the 7. Well, it just so happens we got that photo here. Let me pull that up. We'll have a look. And you tell me how many points are on this star. Entertainment Weekly, Night King. Alright. Check it out. Oh, that's alright. Now you tell me how many points has this star got. That looks to me like a 6-pointed star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like it's like triangles on top of each other, right? That's how a 6-pointed star works. So that's not a 7-pointed star. A 7-pointed star, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, is that 7? Oh, hang on. Has he got a different number on each eye? Because that eye, I'm pretty sure that's like 6-pointed. Because that's one. Yeah, it's like the Star of David. Like that looks like 6 to me. Like there's a bit of blurriness around there. I think that's 6. But that one looks like 7, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, alright. Yeah, maybe it is 7 on both. Alright, shit guys. Well, that's I mean, I don't think that can be anything other than trolling, to be honest. Because, like, what possible connection is there between the ancient White Walkers and the Faith of the Seven, which is basically, like, Catholicism? Yeah, okay, alright, chat, I agree. I think it's 7. So what does that mean? All right, if you want to go like deep into book stuff, like this isn't relevant to the show, but in the books, like there's a lot of hints that these ancient figures of like Azor Ahai and the Last Hero are all represented in different cultures in different ways. Like the story of the Last Hero and Azor Ahai and Herkun the hero and the girl with the monkey's tail hat and all this different stuff. That it all seems to represent the same archetype or the same story told over and over in different ways. And there is kind of an analog of that in the story of the Faith of the Seven, because this guy called Hugor of the Hill is like the Jesus of the Faith of the Seven, and he's said to have brought down stars to wear on his crown, on his brow as a crown, and bringing down stars is associated with like the Bloodstone Emperor, who's like an Azor Ahai figure, and there's also the fact that Hugor of the Hill is a similar name to Hakor, and a similar to Huzor Amai, which is similar to Azor Ahai, which are all these names scattered across Essos. I won't go too much into it, but the point is that like there are some vague mythological connections between the Faith of the Seven and Azor Ahai and the White Walkers. So like maybe that's vaguely what they're getting at, although I really doubt that any of that's going to come up in the show. So the point is that like if you want to get deep, there might be something. Go talk to my main man. Lucifer means Lightbringer. If you want to know about some of that deep symbolism stuff. Yeah, the Faith of the Seven sort of has a Jesus. Anyway, all right. So we're talking about this trailer, right? We haven't even got through it. Herman Langfoss in the chat says, "Where's Ghost?" And that's the real questions, I reckon. Ghost has been MIA for way too long. Susan Hazel, thanks for the super chat, says Jon would be Aegon the 7th because there have been 5 previous King Aegons plus Elia's baby Aegon, so Jon is Aegon 7th of his name. I think that you only count as like the number when you are the king, because there are more Aegons than just the 5 who ruled as kings. Like there, are there? No, I think there are. I'm pretty sure the numbering is only relevant to kings. So I'm pretty sure Jon would actually be the 6th in the show if he becomes king. I don't know. You'll have to talk to someone else for the nomenclature, but I'm not sure. But thanks for the chat. So Jorah, and we got Dothraki outside Winterfell, which is so crazy. These guys are, of course, like woefully under-equipped to survive the cold, right? Like, I mean, you know, even if they got nice clothes, like they're horses. They're poor horses. I mean, have these horses been brought all the way across from the Dothraki Sea? Why would you do that to a poor horse? Maybe these horses have now been got from the north. Where did they get all those horses? Anyway, but the Dothraki, like, you know, one of the issues with the Dothraki early on was this idea that the Dothraki, culturally, they rape and pillage when they invade a place. That's what we saw Daenerys dealing with in Season 1, and in the books especially, where they're talking about, you know, the Dothraki have a culture of pillaging places and burning when they attack. So are they going to want to do this in Westeros? We haven't really seen that happen. Maybe the show isn't interested in exploring that idea. Maybe they've dropped it. They got to drop some stuff because there ain't a lot of time. Nicholas Zuniga, thanks for the chat, says, what will happen when the North finds out that Jon isn't Ned's son? That's a great question. Because part of the reason why the North was so enthusiastic about Jon is because Jon does represent the legacy of Ned Stark, and he is the blood of the North. But if Jon is now seen as a Targaryen, that he no longer has that heritage associated with him. And, you know, the Northern Lords, I think it was one of the Northern Lords said that they don't trust a Targaryen. So if Jon goes around identifying himself as a Targaryen, yeah, he might lose the trust of the North. But of course, you know, again, I don't think Jon is going to want to identify as a Targaryen. Maybe it'll be a secret for a while. Who knows? One Step Plus One, thanks for the super chat, says Alt-Shift-X is a diamond. Thank you, One Step Plus One. So we got Grey Wind and Missandei, which is one of the last nice uncomplicated love stories in Game of Thrones at this point. I mean, I guess there is Sam and Gilly. Probably Sam and Gilly and Grey Wind and Missandei are like the only objectively just great lovely relationships. And so we can only hope that it survives, but it seems pretty likely that at least one of them will die, right? I mean, Grey Wind is constantly putting himself in the middle of battles. Maybe his time is numbered. Or maybe they'll be some of the only ones to survive. There are some crazy theories about Missandei secretly being a faceless man. That's like an old idea from the books. It's super tinfoil, probably not true, but it's interesting. Missandei, for the record, in the books is 7 years old or something, so none of this stuff is happening in the books. They get much more characterization in the show. But I mean, I don't know if there's much specific conflict or themes to really talk about. We had that really tender moment in, I think, season 7, where Missandei and Grey Worm had sex for the first time. And so I think a lot of this is the story of Grey Wind and Missandei is about Grey Worm learning to become not an indoctrinated slave soldier as he was before. He's learning to become more human and free. He's learning how to be free. I think that's what's going on in the storyline. Missandei, she's just more of someone who just is smart and helps Daenerys. I don't know if she's got a whole lot of a complex arc going on. Thanks for the chat, John Walsh. John asks, John is undead of ice, Janny is reborn in fire. Perhaps she'll give birth to an unborn White Walker Fire and Ice Azor Ahai baby thing. Well, yeah, for sure. John is ice, Daenerys is fire. They're having boat sex. Maybe they'll have a child that is some kind of magical, destined, prophesied thing. For sure. Maybe one of the ways that the show can end is with Jon and Daenerys sacrificing their baby to White Walkers. And maybe with that gift, the White Walkers will go away and will only come back when the seasons change again and you know, the cycle repeats itself. Maybe something like that will happen. Alright, someone says stop going off topic and stay on the trailer. Alright, we can do a bit more of that. Alright, so we see Jaime fighting on the walls of Winterfell. And this is a really crazy, evocative shot, I think. It's similar to a dream that Jon has in the books where he's fighting on the walls. He's fighting on the wall, and he's killing dead men, and someone's shouting fire, give them fire. So this is very evocative. A lot of people think that Jaime might be Azor Ahai, the savior of Westeros. Because there is some symbolism, like Jaime does have a dream where he wields a flaming sword and such. So maybe this sort of represents Jaime embodying that role. I also wonder how much of a good fighter Jaime is. He's using his sword here. He's got a sword in his right hand and a sword in his left hand. Did he change hands? Hang on a minute. What's going on here? So we got Jaime. That's definitely a sword in his right hand. And that's also a sword in his left hand. Or is that just his sheath of his sword? His scabbard. I don't know. Is Jaime dual wielding here? I mean, because he's only got the one hand, right? How's this working? Did he grow back a hand? I'm not sure, but that's very exciting. Caligulov, who has a great name, says, ramble on whatever tangent you like, brother. Thank you, Caligulov. I think what we'll do is try and get through the trailer and cover everything, and then we'll maybe ramble some more. And hey, LML, cheers. Thanks for coming into the chat, man. Everyone should check out his channel. Lucifer Means Lightbringer. He's got some really intense, deep, symbolic analysis of the Game of Thrones books. It's great. LML points out that Jon is lined up with Rhaegal. Which shot is that? We'll find it later. But yeah, because the dragon Rhaegal is named after Rhaegar, who is Jon's father. So people have often wondered if there might be a connection between Rhaegal and Jon. Oh, I'm an idiot. Everyone in the chat is shouting that this is Brienne. You're all totally right. That is Brienne, isn't it? I assumed that was Jaime because we then see this shot of Jaime. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's Brienne, which is so great. We got Brienne and Jaime fighting alongside each other on the walls of Winterfell. Yeah, that's Brienne there, fighting against the dead. Isn't that exciting? Because here we go. So in the dream that Jaime has, where he wields a flaming sword, if I remember rightly, Brienne is also wielding a flaming sword in that dream. It's a dream where Jaime is in the bowels of Casterly Rock, where he grew up, and he's fighting the dead alongside Brienne. That's so cool. So yeah, that really does support the idea that Jaime represents some kind of heroic Azor Ahai figure. Something that I think LML would tell you is that there might not be like a singular Azor Ahai, like one hero who saves the world. It might not just be just Jon or just Daenerys. It might be a whole bunch of figures who like represent the same idea and the same archetype in different ways. So maybe there will be multiple Azor Ahais, and maybe Jaime will be one of those. And yeah, people in the chat getting worried because the other thing about the story of Azor Ahai is the idea that Azor Ahai kills his loved wife Nissa in order to save the world. And it might be that Brienne is Jaime's Nissa. Maybe Brienne is the woman who Jaime loves, and maybe therefore Jaime will have to kill Brienne to save the world. I think that would be fucking horrifying, and I don't think they'll do it, but if they really wanted to fuck with our hearts, that is how they'd do it, isn't it? Burrito MG in the chat says Azor Ahai kills a lion first. Yeah, well, there is a story about Azor Ahai plunging his sword into water, and then into the heart of a lion, and then into his lover. And we did see Jaime in water recently, didn't we? After that battle with Daenerys' dragons, the quote-unquote loot train battle. So, Jaime's been forged in water, and maybe Jaime will be forged in a lion when he kills Tyrion or something, I don't fucking know. And then maybe he'll kill Brienne. That would be upsetting, and it would fit the symbolism. There you go. Then we've got the Great Hall in the Red Keep, the throne room, which has gone through a few redecorations. They originally had these nice vines going up the pillars, which Joffrey removed in Season 2, Episode 1, and now I've got these fiery braziers, which you're going to need when things get cold. What's down here at the end of the throne room? We've got Cersei on the Iron Throne. We've got Qyburn, the Hand of the King. Who's that? Is that someone talking to Cersei? Who could that be? Is that Euron? Is that a representative of the Golden Company? I don't know who that is. Thanks for the super chat. Rootenfish says, is there an equivalent Night King invasion going on in Yi Ti right now? That is a question that warms my heart, because yeah, if you're paying attention to the book stuff, the Long Night, like the first time the White Walkers came 8,000 years ago, that didn't just affect Westeros, that affected the whole world, or specifically two ends of the world. The far, far, far east also experienced a long night, and also, Flux is on. I need to turn off Flux. And the long night affected like the far distant parts of the world, and there are theories that maybe that far distant east actually connects to the far west of Westeros, and they're actually connected or something. But yeah, presumably that is happening. If this is the beginning of a long night, then it should be affecting Essos as well. If you want to know about Essos, watch our East video. Ben Hubble says in a super chat, what's your take on Bran being the strong favourite to sit on the Iron Throne by UK bookmakers? I did see that. It's very odd. So what's going on at the moment is that people around the world are placing bets on how Game of Thrones is going to end. Because why not? There are people who will bet on anything. And for some reason, Bran is like a favourite to sit on the throne. And I honestly don't know why, because Bran said himself, I can't be a lord of anything. I'm the three-eyed raven now. Which presumably means that he'll, become a weirwood in the end, just like the original three-eyed raven, Blood Raven. I could see Bran ending the story like, merging into the tree and becoming another, God Emperor of mankind like in Warhammer 40k, and he'll just have the role of being that mystical figure. I can't see Bran being king. He doesn't have any political skills. He doesn't have any interest in the throne. Why would Bran become king? I don't think so. Thanks for the super chat, Pamela. Thanks for the super chat, Nenham. And yeah, Nenham points out that Cersei is a lion who Jaime can plunge a sword into. That's absolutely a good point. There are lots of really strong theories in the books that Jaime will kill Cersei, and that'll be how he sort of faces his darker half, his evil twin, and it'll be a repetition of his killing of the Mad King Aerys. So yeah, it totally makes sense that Jaime will kill Cersei, and that could fit the Azor Ahai story of plunging his sword in a lion. But God, I hope that doesn't mean he'll kill Brienne. William, thanks for the super chat, says Rhaegar is Azor Ahai and Lyanna Stark is Nissa Nissa and Jon Snow is Lightbringer. Yep, I absolutely think that's a good theory. We talk about that in the Rhaegar video. And again fits that idea that there are like multiple repetitions of like the Azor Ahai story. There's not just one Azor Ahai. Bleep Bloop, thanks for the super chat, says, do you think they might have a final Jon Night King confrontation north of the Wall, maybe in the Night King's fortress scene in season 2-3? Now that is something real interesting. Let me actually pull that up. So you remember in, I think it was season 4, when a White Walker took a baby, the last baby of Craster, to a place in the far, far north, and that baby was turned into a White Walker. Let me pull up the bit that I'm talking about. Here we are. So this baby is transformed into a White Walker by the Night King, the original version of the Night King before they changed his design 100 times, and placed on this altar. And the place where this happens is here. And this place, presumably in the far north lands of Always Winter, has this structure here. Look, that's not natural, right? That looks like a ruined castle. Looks a bit like Harrenhal. And in the official HBO Viewers Guide, the official synopsis of this episode describes this place as an ice city, I believe. So do the White Walkers have a civilization? Or did they have a civilization if this is ruined? And will Jon Snow go up here in order to defeat the White Walkers? because George Martin said that in The Winds of Winter we'll go further north than we've ever been before. So my point is, yeah, bleep bloop, that might be what happens. Maybe Jon will have to go to the far, far north and become a White Walker or something. Maybe there must always be a Lich King, like in World of Warcraft. The ending of World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King, was with the hero becoming the White Walker person. I haven't. This is just what I've been told. So maybe there'll be a repetition of that in Game of Thrones. Thanks for the super chat. Makes a nice pun about Jaime. But we'll march on through the trailer because people are impatient. Thanks for the super chat, Ross. We're not going to read every single super chat, but they're all appreciated. Thank you. And Cersei here's looking upset. Actually, what she's saying, we've got a script of the thing here. Alright, we'll just turn on the audio for a second. What does Cersei say? Okay, Cersei doesn't say anything. But Cersei's looking very upset, and Cersei does have a lot of things to be upset about. Because her lifelong lover Jaime has just left her, and she's surrounded on all sides and has very little prospect of surviving. And she's also drinking wine when she's meant to be pregnant, right? Which I don't know if Westerosi know about this, but I don't think you're meant to drink wine while you're pregnant. I know I didn't. So that's concerning. One theory is that Cersei might lose her baby. She might have a miscarriage or something. Because let's be real, like, is there enough time for Cersei to gestate and give birth to a baby? Because this surely this season will be over in less than 9 months. The White Walkers are at the gates, right? So maybe Cersei has to lose her baby one way or another. Importantly, let me pull up another image. Who remembers Maggie the Frog? That's this delightful woman who prophesied to Cersei. We saw it in season 5. She said that you will have 3 children and they will all die. So how can Cersei give birth to a 4th child if it's prophesied that she'll only have 3? Admittedly, in season 1, Cersei said that she actually had another child with Robert, a black-haired boy who died of a disease. So in the shows, Cersei has already had 4 children, so maybe she'll go for 5. Like, I guess if we're just throwing Maggie's prophecy out, maybe that'll be a thing. But yeah, Anne in the chat reckons that Cersei's in grief over her miscarriage, and that's why she's drinking. Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. I did see a rumor going around that there was actually a cut scene from season 7 where Cersei has a miscarriage, but they moved it to season 8 or something. One way or another, like a baby, like it's hard to see how a baby of Cersei Lannister can really fit into the ending of the story. I mean, there is one theory that maybe Cersei will, maybe Cersei made an agreement with Tyrion in season 7, episode 7, for Cersei's child to be the heir to the throne after Cersei is defeated. Like, there's a theory that maybe there's some secret backdoor arrangement to make Cersei's child queen or king, but personally I think that's unlikely. So yeah, Cersei has a lot to be upset about, and it's great to see this shot of like vulnerability right after this shot of power. Like Cersei here with her metal shoulder plates, she's looking incredibly pleased and smug and strong and military here, whereas over here she's looking very vulnerable. Her eyes are wet. She's someone in the chat reckons she looks pleased. Well, yeah, I think there's that is like a little smile there, isn't it? But at the same time, she's definitely her eyes are wet. So I think she's upset, but she's also feeling complicated emotions right now. Cersei has always been someone of complicated, conflicted emotions. Someone, thanks for the super chat, DBZ fan. True to their name, DBZ fan describes a fusion dance and Dragon Balls. It's possible. Maybe that's what'll happen. We got dragons swooping over the north. Is that Beyond the Wall? That looks like Beyond the Wall to me. Are there dragons going beyond the wall again? Because I don't think we got that sort of like wild landscape south of the wall. I think that that's Beyond the Wall, and I think that that forest is the Haunted Forest. So, but why would Daenerys' 2 surviving dragons be going beyond the wall? Are there riders on these dragons? Enhance. Are there people on the backs of these dragons? Doesn't look like it. Like, is Jon... yeah. So there's no one sitting on that dragon, because presumably at some point Jon has to do his first dragon ride, right? I mean, with his Targaryen bloods, surely that's got to happen. But it doesn't look like that's what's happening here. I don't see anyone on those dragons. Then we see Arya. We already saw this footage from a little HBO teaser thing that came out. But Arya, in this shot, judging by the other teaser, is looking at Daenerys' dragon Drogon at Winterfell. And Arya's response is awe. And I think that part of the point of that is that, like, Arya has repeatedly had moments of, like, talking about the wonders of the world and being excited to explore and adventure and to see new things. Like in season 6, when Arya said she'd like to see the edge of the world with Lady Crane. And there's this idea that keeps coming up that maybe Arya will, at the end of Game of Thrones, just sail off and adventure on her own somewhere. Because, like, you know, she doesn't want to be a lady, she doesn't want to marry some lord, she doesn't want to be a queen. Arya, especially in the show, I think, wants to adventure. And maybe that's what Arya's fate will be in the end. She'll go and see dragons and other cool things, perhaps. Thanks for the super chat, Kathy. Kathy suggests that maybe the alcohol Cersei drinks causes her baby to be a dwarf, like Tyrion. And yeah, there would be a great irony if Cersei's child had the same condition that Tyrion does, which is part of why Cersei hates Tyrion so much. Some people think that maybe Cersei will die giving birth to a dwarf. That would be a very poetic end to Cersei Lannister, I would say. Someone in the chat is very, very excited to say that Harry Strickland has the same sword as Rhaegar and is holding it in the same position. So are we starting a new secret identity theory? All right, let's check that theory. So we'll have a look at, let me pull up the image, Rhaegar Targaryen. Let's see Rhaegar Targaryen's sword. Oop, that's the version without Lyanna's head. I needed that for a thumbnail. I'll get the version with Lyanna's head just for the sake of... Wait, where's the version with Lyanna's head? Okay, I haven't permanently beheaded Lyanna, don't worry. So there's Rhaegar, and there's his sword. Is that the same sword? I don't think that's oh, fucking Windows. I don't think that's the same sword. It is in a similar position. But that's got like a curved hilt, whereas this has a straight hilt. So it's definitely a different sword. But yeah, it is in a similar position. Well, no, it's not even in a similar position. It's just a sword on his belt. So if you got any secret Blackfire theories, Rhaegar equals Harry Strickland, I don't think that's supported here. Thanks for the super chat. Nonsensical says maybe Arya will wander away at the end, and that she will survive, like Nymeria does in Season 7. Yeah, I think that's possible. Thanks for the super chat, Uncle Gienya, who says, I'll pray to the old gods and the Seven for a series analogue in Yi Ti, the Grey Waste, and Five Forts. I also feel that would be cool, but I think the truth is that the reason why Yi Ti, the Grey Waste, and the Five Forts are so exciting is that we don't know anything about them. Like, George Martin said himself that, a lot of the reason for those mysterious places in the Far East is to be mysterious, and if we start learning things about it, it can get very tedious. Remember the Star Wars prequels? Like, how great was the Clone Wars when we didn't know what the Clone Wars was? Like when Obi-Wan in Episode 1, Episode 3, Episode 4, A New Hope, is sitting there going, man, the Clone Wars were fucking dire, me and Vader back in the day, that was some rough shit. And then your imagination had to fill in the blanks. That was very exciting. Whereas when we actually saw the Clone Wars in all their CGI glory, I mean, I guess it was fun in some parts, but it was mostly just deeply existentially upsetting. So do we really want to know the truth of the Five Forts? Maybe not. I think it's there for the mystery. All right, so that's the Golden Company. Thanks for the super chat, Christopher Morse. And we've talked about our trio here. What are we up to? We're up to... Yeah, we've done an hour-long stream about a 1-minute trailer. Oh, I love it, guys. And this isn't even the proper video. For those, we're going to make a proper Alt Shift X Explained breakdown of the trailer. This is just a stream for fun. And to hear your ideas about what you want us to talk about. Someone says Jorah has Heartsbane. Someone in the chat said that Jorah has Heartsbane, which is the Valyrian steel sword of of House Tarly that Sam stole. And I think it's plausible that Jaime could have Heartsbane, because Sam could give Heartsbane to Jaime, because Jaime could do more work with it than Sam could. Although I don't see Jaime with Heartsbane in these shots, so I'm not sure what the evidence is. Thank you, Spring-Heeled Jill, who says, I just want Tyrion to finally get to finish his honeycomb joke. My guess is that that'll be the ending of the show. All right, a lot of people are shouting in the chat. It's Jorah who supposedly has Heartsbane. So there's a sword there. Is that Heartsbane? Is that Heartsbane? That just looks like something that could be anything, couldn't it? And yeah, Jaime already has Widow as well. I guess that could be Heartsbane. I don't know. Maybe we got it. Maybe it's in a different. All right. Anyway, Jonathan, thanks for the super chat. Says that is the Golden Company on the Silence. Yeah, that is for sure the Golden Company on. Yeah, and it's got the special sails. So yeah, that is specifically the Silence, which is Euron's special ship, which in the books has a deck that is red with the blood of his enemies. Direwolves at 123, someone says. Oh man, I haven't even properly looked at these shots yet. This is this is exciting. What is this shot? We're sort of jumping ahead a bit, but whose bones are these? What's going on? So Daenerys and Jon. So these are the two dragons that we saw flying around before, which I think is beyond the wall. And there's a bunch of bones in front of a couple of dragons that Daenerys and Jon are. Oh yeah, I don't know what's happening. Maybe Jon actually was riding Drogon with Daenerys. Like maybe instead of Jon being on Rhaegal for his first dragon ride, he just sat in the sidecar with Daenerys for his first dragon ride. Maybe Jon was a bit too scared to sit in his own right. Krista Erickson, thanks for the super chat, says, what do you think about the Night King reviving dead Starks from the crypts? There is a lot of stuff in the books about the dead Kings of Winter rising. Whether that's going to be more metaphorical or literal, I don't know. It's hard to imagine, like, I mean, those Kings of Winter are hundreds or thousands of years dead. They would physically be dust, right? Can the Night King revive corpses that are that old and stanky? Or will they come back as ghosty, spirity things like in Lord of the Rings? I don't know. Euclidean, thanks for the super chat, says, will this be posted on YouTube to watch again? I would miss the first 16 minutes. The idea is that it's going to be available to watch later only for patrons, but I'll tell you now, you can just grab the URL of the stream right now and save it for later, so you're welcome to just watch it whenever you want later. But yeah, the idea is that patrons will have, like, unlimited access to all the streams, but we'll do them public for now is the idea. Mo Castillo says, rewatched the trailer a few times. Cersei is drinking wine. The miscarriage happened already. Yeah, we discussed that in the stream. All right, so we got, what did we miss? We got Arya, we got Grey Worm. Grey Worm's looking fucking mad. Look at him. Grey Worm is... Fuck. What did these White Walkers do to Grey Worm? Like, I've seriously never seen that much intensity or that much anger on Greywind? Oh, I'm like, was I calling him Greywind the whole time? I'm so sorry. His name is Grey Worm. Jesus. Oh. I was so confused why people were shouting Greywind in the chat. I've been calling Grey Worm Greywind. Oh, see, this is why they never have... Like, George Martin said that there's an author's like rule of thumb that says that you should never have two characters in your story with the same with the name of the same letter. So don't have a John and a Joseph because they're too similar. Like, you want to have all your names as different as possible. George Martin threw that advice so far out the window that he's got multiple characters, like a dozen characters called Aegon. And indeed, Greywind, Grey Worm, very similar names. So forgive me. But look how fucking mad look at those eyebrows. Those are some Emilia Clarke level eyebrows. I'm excited to see what kind of ass Greywind whoops in the next season. We got who's that? Is that Jon? We got Jon standing by a weirwood, which is pretty exciting because Jon's relationship with the old gods is There hasn't been much of that in the show. In the books, Jon is a warg, like Bran. Jon is able to warg into his ghost direwolf and see through his eyes, but we don't see that in the show. And, given Jon's connection with the Targaryens, with like dragon blood, that sort of raises questions about his Stark blood and his relationship with the old gods. Like, there's lots of different mystical forces acting on Jon. So it's curious to know what his relationship with the old gods and the weirwoods will be. And it's also just a beautiful image. I think they did the weirwoods really well in the show. Thanks for the super chat, Leah. All right, so we got the Hound. And this is a great shot because the Hound is lit by fire here. And one of the Hound's relationship with fire is actually really complex and interesting. I think we'll try and do a recap video about the Hound before the final season. I think we'll try. But yeah, because Sandor, like in the very beginning, we learn in season 1 that the Hound was burned by his big brother Gregor the Mountain. When they were very young, Sandor the Hound tried to play with one of the Mountain's toys, a toy knight, and the Mountain got mad and held the Hound's face in a fire, and his face got burned. And that's like the origin story of the Hound. That's why he's so hateful and afraid and angry and all of that. And so, as a consequence, Sandor is afraid of fire. So in Season 2, at the Battle of the Blackwater, the Hound flees the battle because he's afraid of fire when men start burning, because Tyrion uses wildfire to explode Stannis' fleet. So Sandor's fear of fire is something that keeps coming up. And in Season 3, when Sandor fights Beric Dondarrion, the Lightning Lord, with his flaming sword, he's scared of the fire, so it comes up again. And there's an idea that maybe in the end, Sandor will conquer... Yeah, his real name is Sandor. Sorry, the Hound. They don't really use the name Sandor in the show, but the Hound's real name is Sandor Clegane. But the Hound might overcome his fear of fire, is the point. And maybe the context of that will be he'll be fighting his brother Gregor. In Season 7, Gregor is confronted by Sandor. The Hound says to the Mountain, "You know what's coming, you've always known." Hashtag Clegane Bowl hype. So the idea is that Sandor might use fire to kill his brother the Mountain and get over his fear of fire and get over his trauma from the Mountain, because psychology and PTSD is that simple. Thanks for the super chat, Robbie. What do you think Arya is running from? There is a shadowy figure in one of the frames, so it looks like Arya is running away from a person, maybe a white, a zombie, but we don't know yet. Evan says, will you post a breakdown on the channel? Yes, we will. That'll be in about a day, once we've really sort of gone through everything and figured out all the cool shit. We got Jaime in what looks like Winterfell. I love how Jaime's hair is just dark now. Like, they're not even pretending that Jaime was ever a Lannister with blonde hair. And Jaime looks like he's dropping some hard news. Maybe he's telling Jon and Daenerys that Cersei betrayed them and is getting the Golden Company, because Daenerys and Jon don't know that. So maybe Jaime is warning them about the coming of the Golden Company. And then we got... Alright, what's happening here? So we got Jon holding a shield in one of his hands, is it? No, that's just his clothes. But Jon's gripping... What is that? Is that a spear? Is that a bow? Is that a... I don't know what that is. And Jon sprinting towards a gate with some soldiers. Well, I mean, maybe... And then these horses. So maybe Jon is just like running outside Winterfell to go and fight the White Walkers. It's hard to get much out of this. There's all these fires everywhere, which, you would be using if you were fighting the White Walkers and the Whites. Someone says it's Arya's hand. Actually, yeah, that isn't Jon's hand, is it? Oh no, maybe it is. No, that looks a bit too slender to be a man's hand. Yeah, so maybe that's Arya with a bow. We did see Arya, yeah, because there's a bowstring there. We did see Arya in Season 1, Episode 1 using a bow. So it would be cool if Arya used archery in this final season after all that time. Thanks for the super chat, Shen Long. Apparently we have more live viewers than CNN. Wow, that's the dream. That's the dream. We got horses, so I would assume this is like Dothraki riding out to fight the Whites. What's that gonna look like? What's that? Oh, direwolves, not horses. Oh, what? Are those doggos? Or are those horsies? No, that's definitely horses. Look, that's a hoof. Don't tell me that's not a hoof. Come on. Is that, you trying to tell me that's direwolves? There aren't that many. That's horses. Look at that leg. Look at that leg. That's a horse leg, isn't it? Direwolves are more shaggy. Horses have that finer fur, don't they? Goats. Someone says it's goats. Maybe Vargo Hoat has come. Finally. Book character. Someone says, will Ed Sheeran win the throne? Entirely possible. That's probably, don't tell anyone, but that's probably what the April Fool's video will be. Actually, who's got some great ideas for an April Fool's video? Don't tell anyone I asked this, but someone in the chat what's a great idea for an Alt-Shift-X April Fool's video? Because we got to think of something funny enough to beat the Game of Bones April Fool's video and the Season 8 leak April Fool's video and the Hodor April Fool's video. Someone like tweet me like your best funniest idea for an April Fool's video, and then delete the tweet so everyone thinks it's my idea. That would be great. Anyway, so we got Daenerys and Jon walking towards the dragons with the, and yeah, someone in the chat said, yeah, those are definitely animal bones, not human bones, unless someone is very large. Maybe the mountain would have bones that big. Someone in the chat says Takashi69 wins the Iron Throne, and that would be a spoiler that no one sees coming. Thank you, Drubo, for the super chat. Night King's coming for revenge. All right, we got Sansa looking, I don't know, a bit concerned, but not overly so. She looks like she's about to say something to someone. She's in Winterfell, whatever. Arya doing some spin moves. Arya with the pirouette. Is she killing whites, I guess? There's some blood coming out there. Do whites have that much blood? I thought whites were spooky skeletons without that much fluid in them. Is Arya fighting people, or is she fighting zombinis? Well, either way, she's doing some sick spin moves. We're going to see... this is like the stuff that Arya was trained by the Faceless Men to do, right? We saw Arya do some pretty sick spin moves when she was trained by the Waif in Season 6. So it'll be pretty exciting for Arya to use all of her full hidden techniques. Because you can see it as like, you know, all the characters have got all their XP points. They're all leveled up at this point. And this is like the time for everyone to show exactly how badass they are. So we're going to see no holding back. We're going to see all the maximum extent of people's abilities at this point, which I think is going to be very exciting. Someone in the chat says that she's fighting ice spiders, because in the books we're told, and I think in the show, we're told that the White Walkers use ice spiders, which are like these monstrous great beasts. Here is an image from the Song of Ice and Fire calendar that came out recently, which is a pretty dark, strange interpretation of what White Walkers and ice spiders look like. And especially the White Walker at the top there looks like a Grim Reaper figure. He doesn't really look much like a White Walker as described in the books or as they look in the show, but either way, interesting image. And yeah, maybe we will see monstrous ice spiders in Game of Thrones Season 8. That would be very exciting. Thank you for the super chat, Stephen, who says that Littlefinger's actual finger takes the throne. Well, yeah, maybe Arya took Littlefinger's finger just as a keepsake after killing him, and maybe she could put that on the throne. That would be fun. Zombo Assassin says, face reveal for Season 8 finale. Yes, it was Ed Sheeran all along. That would be great. Manoj, thanks for the super chat, says, are those dragon bones? Oh, that is a cool idea. It doesn't look like dragon bones to me. I've played enough Skyrim to know that. But the idea of a dragon being killed is certainly a possibility, because the dragon Viserion, who was killed and taken over by the Night King last season, I mean, he's got to die, right? Like, this series isn't going to end with a zombie dragon on the loose, is it? Unless it just returns to the lands of Always Winter. But yeah, we might see the corpse of an ice dragon or an icy dragon at some point, so that would be exciting. Thank you. Hakon says, where do you think the White Walkers are by the end of the first episode? When do you think the first confrontation will be? We might not see a fight with the White Walkers in episode 1. Because when have we ever seen a fight with the White Walkers in episode 1? Well, alright, I think we did in season 3, episode 1. But I think they're going to give us at least a moment for like the threat to feel like it's looming before the threat is upon us. And we do know that apparently the big battle at Winterfell happens in episode 3. So I would think that we're not going to see any major conflict with the White Walkers in episode 1. But we might certainly see some like incidents in episode 1 and 2. Thanks for the super chat, Ali from Qatar. So we got... Arya doing a 6 spin moves. Actually, can someone... I think I'll just make a gif of just Arya spinning continuously. If we can get like a seamless loop of Arya just spinning, that would make me very happy. We got Daenerys looking... You know what that looks like to me? That looks to me like the face of a person who... the face of a person who just found out that she's been having sex with her nephew. I think that's what it looks like. And in fact, is this maybe the boat? No, this looks like a room in Winterfell. But yeah, Daenerys is looking real sad and regretful at this point. So maybe this is after she finds out the truth. Maybe in season 8, episode 1 will be when the revelation about Jon's parentage happens. That'll be very exciting. Other people in the chat say maybe Daenerys has found out that she's pregnant. Yeah, I think it is very likely that Daenerys will get pregnant in season 8 because there's been lots of discussion about her fertility and about her and Jon having children in season 7. But would Daenerys have this reaction to that news? I think Daenerys would. I mean, you should have mixed emotions, but I would think that it would be like a joyous thing to find out that she's pregnant. But yeah, there certainly would be complex political implications of that. But it would solve the problem of like Daenerys and Jon's like rival claims to the throne. If they marry each other and have a child that would be the heir to the throne, that would solve the political crisis in a lot of ways. So yeah. YouTube Underground in the chat says we did see a White Walker fight in season 1 episode 1. Yeah, that is true as well. Well, yeah, alright, we actually have often seen White Walker fights in the first episodes of seasons. And that can serve to be like the idea of setting in a looming threat before the big battle comes later. That's true. Alright, so we got Tyrion looking up and looking curious about something. I guess he's looking up at a dragon. He could be anywhere. Maybe it's Winterfell. We got a dragon about to fire some spicy, hot new mixtapes. And that could really be anywhere. We've got a lot of similar shots to that. And then we got the Unsullied. Is that like a siege engine in the background or some kind of wooden structure? Not sure what that is, but you know, presumably this is at Winterfell getting ready for battle. We got Podrick, my main man Podrick, standing by Brienne. That there is the sigil of House Arryn. So these are some Knights of the Vale by the looks of it. These Knights of the Vale, they did not know what they were in for. They got sent by Robin Arryn and Littlefinger to help Sansa. I don't think these guys ever signed up to fight wildlings, Boltons in the north. When they decided to fight for the Arryns of the Eyrie, but there you go. Now they're fighting zombies. I hope they're getting hazard pay. So everyone's looking very grim and serious. This is probably like the moments before the attack begins, I would guess, by how grim everyone's looking. Podrick, I'm predicting, is going to have some impressive feat of arms in this season. I think he'll like save someone and kill some zombie in some really cool way. Because there have been all these scenes of him being trained. He's been trained by Brienne, who's this really skilled warrior. He's been trained by Bronn, who's this really dirty but effective warrior. I reckon there's going to be a moment where Podrick does something badass with a sword, kind of similar to how he saves Tyrion in season 2, episode 9. Thank you for the super chat, that guy, who says, how come Daenerys is wearing white and Jon is wearing black? It seems a bit backwards, given that Daenerys is the fiery figure and Jon is the icy figure. Yeah, well, all the symbolism is a bit mixed up with Jon and Daenerys, because, you know, Jon Jon has the blood of both the fiery Targaryens and the icy Starks. So is he ice or fire? And Daenerys has just the blood of the fiery Targaryens and not the blood of the icy Starks. So Daenerys is fire, Jon is ice and fire, which sort of makes the symbolism a bit asymmetrical, doesn't it? You'd think it makes Jon more special, weshel, magical, because he's got both kinds, like in Blues Brothers. So yeah, the symbolism is complex, and the costuming might reflect that. Chris Lauber, thanks for the super chat, says that the shot with Arya's hand and fire is in the throne room in King's Landing. Oh, that's an interesting idea. You might be right. I do notice that even just like the coloring, like the color grading of this fire is a different color to the fire here. See how this fire is more yellow? This fire is more sort of orange? Well, that might be nothing. But yeah, I think you might be right. Because if we look at this shot of the throne room here, yeah, I think this coloring is more similar to Arya's hand here. Yeah, I think you might be right. So maybe Arya is in King's Landing, yeah, with the brazier there, with a bow, maybe trying to kill Cersei. That is a very real possibility. And someone suggests that maybe Arya at the start running around, maybe she's running in King's Landing. Yeah, I think that's possible. So maybe she like tries to kill Cersei, but like fails and then runs away. Maybe that's what happens. I think that's entirely possible, because like that's a really difficult thing with Arya's arc. Like, how can a story end? Like, so much of a story is about revenge. But it's also about the question of, is Arya able to reconnect with her family? Like, Maisie Williams said recently that, like, she hopes that Arya can find peace. And I don't think she's going to achieve peace by, like, killing a whole bunch of people. Like, I think that's more about reconnecting with her family. Like, the whole disaster of an arc in Season 7 was about her conflict with Sansa. Like, can she get along? Can she continue the relationship with her family that she had, given all the trauma and all of the separation from her identity that she's gone through? So I don't expect Arya's arc to end with her, like, you know, chopping off Cersei's head and killing the Mountain and saying, yep, I'm done, great. I think it's going to be more about her. I mean, she's going to do a lot of spin moves. She's going to kill people. But I don't think she's going to find satisfaction purely by killing, is what I'm trying to say. Someone says the Mountain is running behind her. I think when we zoomed in on that silhouette, it looks too small to be the Mountain. Yeah, see that shadow there? That seems to be who's chasing her, and I don't think that's the Mountain. But who is scary enough to make Arya run away like that when Arya is such a powerful warrior? A lot of questions. I think there's just a few shots left. So we got Jorah. Jorah looking a bit weepy. Jorah with what might be the beginnings of tears in his eyes. And it seems to be that same scene of everyone squaring off to fight the battle outside of Winterfell. And then we got the hooves of an undead horse setting its feet in front of Winterfell. So this suggests that the White Walkers have come to Winterfell to fight this crazy battle in Season 8, Episode 3. So, holy shit, guys. Yeah, I really think this is just footage from the first few episodes. It doesn't really reveal anything super major, but if we tried to stitch this together into a narrative that sort of makes sense, yeah, it only took us an hour to go through this 1 minute trailer, 2 minute trailer. But if we tried to stitch this together, like it looks like Jon and Daenerys arrive at Winterfell, and Arya's like, ooh, dragon, love it. And then maybe Arya goes to King's Landing to try to assassinate Cersei, because, you know, her plan in Season 7 was to kill Cersei. But then the assassination attempt fails, and then Arya, I guess, probably goes back to Winterfell to help everyone fight the dead in Episode 3. And at some point, yeah, so there's no one... It doesn't look like there's anyone on the dragon's backs in this shot, because otherwise I would think that, like, this is Jon and Daenerys on the two dragons flying beyond the wall, because we see these dragons beyond the wall in this shot. but yeah, there doesn't seem like there's anyone on their backs. So I don't know what these shots are for. Are the dragons just flying around for fun? I don't know. We got Greywind and Beric and Tormund and Ed and everyone taking part in the battle. Jon Snow doing something heroic. There isn't a whole lot going on. Gendry is taking part as a smith. Is Gendry going to be a warrior as well as a smith? Because he's pretty keen on swinging that hammer. I assume that the Hound gave it back to Gendry after borrowing it in season 7, episode 6. The crypts, that would certainly be the sort of place where you'd have a very difficult conversation about. Did I say Greywind again? I'm sorry, Grey Worm. Oh, this is why normally we script and we edit. The crypt could certainly be a place to have a difficult conversation about Jon's parentage. I love these overhead shots of Winterfell. The design is kind of awkward with like the castle there and then the Godswood there. I think the Godswood should really be more like a part of like Winterfell, but whatever. Yeah, so Alexandra in the chat says, why do you keep saying they're beyond the wall? Yeah, well, maybe it's not beyond the wall. It just seems like this landscape, like this sort of like crazy, harsh, mountainous, intense landscape is more associated with beyond the wall, I think, from what we normally see. And this forest could easily be the haunted forest beyond the wall, or maybe it's the Wolf's Wood outside of Winterfell. That's true. And yeah, we got these amazing shots on the battlements of Jaime and Brienne fighting alongside each other like that dream. And we got Jorah. All right. Well, I think we've made a good first run at this. Actually, that's one of the other interesting things. Arya with this, what looks like a dragonglass dagger. I assume that this scene is like Sam or someone describing to Arya the threat of the White Walkers, and explaining that you need the dragonglass to kill White Walkers, because Arya's never seen a White Walker. But she's talking about the faces of death, and she's looking forward to facing the White Walkers. So that's what that scene's probably about. Varys hiding in the crypts is fun. I reckon he'll have some great conversations down there. Who's Varys going to talk to down there? What other named... Oh, that's Gilly. Is that Gilly? That looks like Gilly and Little Sam. Let's pull up a photo to compare. This is Gilly in one of the recent shots. That's her. Yeah? That's her. Same outfit, I think. So that's Gilly and her little baby. And one of the things that might happen with Gilly and her little baby is that the White Walkers might come and take her baby. Because that baby was originally meant to be given by Craster to the White Walkers. And at the last minute, Sam and Gilly took the baby away, south beyond the wall. And so there's a theory that maybe the White Walkers are coming after little Sam. And so that could certainly be a heart-rending, horrific thing. And go watch the Stark Mysteries video we just put out if you want more on some of those sort of ideas. But alright, I think we're running out of steam, and I think this is a good first look. Thank you all so much for participating in this stream. We will do more big live public streams when new episodes come out, I think. Like next trailer and first episode, I think. If you want to watch the full live streams like later, like offline, I think we'll make those available just to patrons. So you're welcome to come and support at patreon.com/AltShiftX if you'd like to do that. But otherwise, thank you all so much for getting in here. If you got last questions, chuck them in now. Thank you for the super chat, Film Cram. Dude, you've been a massive inspiration, and I love your thoughtful, measured approach. All the best to you. Thank you very much, Film Cram. But yeah, I think that's it. So we're going to work on getting this video out as soon as possible. I'm guessing it'll probably be 24 hours to get all our shit together. And then it'll be out then. The rest of the plan for before season 8 is to make some like character recap videos. We're going to do a recap video about Tyrion's arc in the show. That'll be fun. And we'll do some other characters as well. I think we'll do Arya recap. And I'd like to do some minor characters. I'd like to do Bronn and like the Hound and stuff. So that'll all be fun. Are there any... Alright, cool. I think we're done. Thanks, guys. Keep an eye out for the explainer video. Make sure you're subscribed and everything. And we'll talk about it then. Thanks for the super chat, Znushu, who says, I bet Arya is going to kill Cersei, and while she's pretending to be her, Jaime comes around and decides to kill Cersei, who at the time is Arya. Damn. So there are theories that maybe Arya will kill Cersei while wearing Jaime's face, because that would sort of fulfill the Valonqua prophecy and fulfill Arya's desire to kill Cersei. But Znushu here is suggesting that maybe Arya will kill Cersei while wearing Cersei's face, and that therefore maybe Jaime will try to kill Arya thinking it's Cersei. That would be wild. I think that would be confusing. And I don't know if Arya can wear Cersei's face while Cersei still has her face, you know? So I don't know if that works. Thank you, Tommy says, have a weird feeling that the clip of Drogon is him helping Gendry forge a new weapon. That's an interesting idea. Because Valyrian steel is like this, you know, special magical metal that can only be forged in special Valyrian technology that we don't know how it works. And some people have speculated that Gendry might be able to forge Valyrian steel, which in the books doesn't really have any basis, but which in the show kind of does, because in the show Gendry is working under this guy called Turbo Mott. And Turbo Mott in the books is the guy who reforges the sword Ice into the swords Widow's Wail and Oathkeeper, which are Valyrian steel blades. So Gendry, at least in the books, studied under the guy who knows how to reforge Valyrian steel. And Gendry is a prominent, you know, smith character. So maybe, and, you know, they need Valyrian steel to fight the White Walkers, so maybe Gendry will do something with Valyrian steel in the show. I think that's plausible. And thank you, JFWY at SC. Alright, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, and we'll get that video out soon. Cheers. Oh, and yeah, sorry to anyone if I missed your super chats. That we'll get to them, but thanks.